The following podcast contains spoilers for Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, and To All the Boys I've Loved Before. You have been warned.
That's such a long title. It's insane.
I know.
Welcome back, everybody, to KFR News Radio. This is your host, Glenjamin Button, along with your host, Miguel. Me gusta.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, gracias. ¿Y tú?
Come see, come sa.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know what I just said. How you doing, Glenn?
Not too bad. Not too bad at all. How are you, my friend?
I'm also not too bad.
Or como sa, whatever.
Yeah, you know? Whatever. It's whatever. I got a question for you.
Uh-oh.
What is the first name of Ripley, Sigourney Weaver's character in Alien? So Ripley is her last name.
Holy shit. I actually don't know that, to be honest.
Okay, your options are Eloise, Ellen, Elizabeth, or Erica.
I feel like it's Ellen.
Ding, 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 ding. You are correct.
Holy shit.
Yeah, right? I'm proud of
it. Was either that or what was the second one?
Well, they always have the right answer at the bottom, so I switch them up a bit.
Oh, okay. It was like Elizabeth.
I'm pretty sure I said Eloise second.
Eloise.
I'm not sure.
It was either that one. Anyway, we're moving on. Yeah. I got it right, as always. Because I'm a genius.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're so smart. So, speaking of smarts, did you see any movies last week?
So I only got to see our two movies. Barely got to see the last one that we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, you had some internet issues. All right. Well, I only saw two others. The first one I saw is A Long Shot, starring Charlize Theron and Seth Rogen. Or Charlize Theron. I don't know how you pronounce it.
It's Theron.
Yeah, Charlize Theron, and June Diane Raphael, and a bunch of other people that you recognize. Essentially, you know, it was pretty good. It tells the story of a woman who is running for president, and the slob of a boyfriend she falls in love with. Even though slob's kind of a harsh term, he's just kind of
just
not who you think a politician would be.
Not fancy.
Exactly. Then the other movie I watched is Lizzie, which is about Lizzie Borden, who allegedly killed her parents, or her dad and stepmother.
So it's an interesting week for us. Yeah. Lots of murder.
Lots of murder. It was okay. You know, I think the story is more interesting than this movie warranted.
Yeah.
So I was kind of disappointed in that sense. Kristen Stewart's in it, and she actually does a relatively decent job. I mean, I'm not one of those Kristen Stewart haters. I know she can be a decent actress.
Yeah, she can be good when she needs to be.
When she needs to be, and she's passionate about the subject matter. But yeah, it's just overall underwhelming movie for such an interesting story.
Okay.
But that will bring us into our two movies for this week. And we will start with Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile.
Do you remember the night we met?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been witness to the unspeakable horrors of the defendant's heinous crimes. You have seen ghastly injuries, smashed-in faces, broken jaws.
Will the defendant please rise?
For years, I've carried this guilt that I'm to blame for everything. If only I hadn't trusted you.
Promise you'll never leave me, Liz.
It's about another missing girl, isn't it? Did you do it?
No.
Which is, it's such a title.
It is a title.
Like, it really is. Because even though I knew what it was, like, even typing it into Google, I'm like, fuck, what was the name of that movie?
Yeah.
It's so long.
It is very long. I mean, it is what the judge of his trial called his his murder. So
that makes sense.
It definitely makes sense. So, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile is directed by Joe Berlinger, written by Michael Werwe, and based on the book The Phantom Prince, My Life with Ted Bundy, written by Elizabeth Kendall. It tells the story of a courtroom frenzy that ensues and sweeps 1970s America when a young single mother reluctantly tips the attention of a widespread manhunt toward her longtime boyfriend, Ted Bundy. It stars Lily Collins, Zac Efron, James Hetfield, as we discussed, John Malkovich, and I feel like I'm missing someone. Haley Joel Osment.
There it is.
Yeah, there we go. And also Kaya Scodelario.
I almost just said Joel Osment, and I was like, that's
Scodelario.
not right.
Oh my gosh, Italian names, man. Italian names.
Is that the only ones?
No, it's all of them. Anyone that has more than 2 syllables. But yeah, so it tells a story, more so the story from his girlfriend's perspective, Lily Collins' perspective, the story of Ted Bundy and his murders, which I kind of find refreshing. You know, it wasn't a murder movie about the murderer themselves, and kind of, I don't want to say downplayed the murders because it was about that, but it didn't have it at the forefront. It was more about the psychological
It
torment.
wasn't the primary focus.
Exactly. It was more about the psychological torment of this woman who thought she knew the man she loved and finding out he is a completely terrible person.
On that, I really didn't know too much about this movie other than the fact that it was about Ted Bundy, which, if we're going to be honest here, I had only heard things about him. I didn't actually know what he did and stuff like that. So going into the movie, I was like baffled that it had nothing to do with any of the murders.
Yeah.
I mean, it obviously did, but they didn't show any of them until, like, if anything, the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
Which they just showed an image. And I thought that was pretty relieving. I mean, I still wanted to know, which is why I'm watching the Ted Bundy tapes now.
Yeah.
I still wanted to know more about it. But instead of that, they more or less kind of just, like, humanized him and, like, kind of made him out to be a person, like how he was manipulative and everything like that.
A lot of people have problems with that. Like, a lot of people have problems with the attraction that women felt towards him and everything. I read somewhere that some people think they made Ted Bundy too sexy, and like that was kind of the whole point of the trial.
Well,
like, women flocked to the trial because they thought he was innocent and or just had like a morbid curiosity and were like attracted to him. It's not an exaggeration.
I could see that if I wasn't 120% distracted by the fact that Ted Bundy was ripped as motherfucker. Oh my God. Took off his shirt and I'm like, okay, Ted Bundy, you physical peak. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but I mean, Ted Bundy was one of those, you know me, I find serial killers fascinating and read up
As
on them
most
a lot.
people do. I definitely do.
It's something that's always fascinated me. Even when I was a kid, I just like read and watched about serial killers, probably at way too young of an age. I definitely thought serial killers were going to be more of a problem in life than they actually are. Not that they're not a problem, but they're not nearly as much of a problem as documentaries about the Zodiac Killer and Ted Bundy made them seem to be.
At least not like today.
Yeah. And yeah, they really kind of nailed how charming he was. I mean, the reason he got people to trust him is because he was charming. The reason so many people did not believe he did what he did was because he was charming. You know, you think of serial killers being these reclusive people, like the Son of Sam killer, or for a lesser example, John Wayne Gacy, even though he was a people person, but he was more reclusive than Ted Bundy was. Ted Bundy was very personable.
Yeah, he was, and on top of it all, he was extremely educated.
Yeah, and I just absolutely love the fact that they played this like the audience didn't know already that he was guilty. I thought that was a very bold move. I do think probably the opening 20 minutes of the film were a bit slow.
Yeah.
But then once it got going, you know, I was really into it and enjoyed it for the most part. I definitely had problems with it, more so pacing than anything else, and the editing was a bit wonky at times. But every problem I have with it is more technical. I don't know about you, but Zac Efron completely blew me away in this, as did Lily Collins.
He was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think I loved everybody in this movie, but I think for me, what took me away from the movie was the celebrity status that is in this movie. It kind of distracted me.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Zac Efron did blow me away, but you can't help but to see when he takes his shirt off, you're like, okay, this ruins kind of my Ted Bundy experience, because he's not fucking ripped.
Yeah.
But also good for Ted Bundy. Maybe he wanted to be that ripped. I mean, that like that, and then John Malkovich. I didn't know he was going to be in this movie. He was fantastic. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But it kind of distracted me because I'm like, that's just John Malkovich.
One thing,
But I do 120% love always a nice surprise Haley Joel Osment in my movie.
Yeah. Haley Joel Osment is one of those actors. I'm so glad that he kind of,
Rebounded.
I mean, he never had any like life issues that I know of, other than maybe a little weight problem. But who doesn't have a little bit of a weight problem? But he definitely rebounded from. He seemed to come out of being a child actor relatively unscathed.
Yeah.
At least he, portrays himself that way.
At least like to most of the other child actors that he grew up alongside, like maybe Macaulay Culkin or something like that. But he even rebounded at this point.
Yeah.
Finally.
One celebrity in this that I thought, blended in very well was James Hetfield.
Yeah,
I had no idea it was him until like 30 minutes after his scene.
I knew he was in this movie, and then after the movie ended, I'm like, where the fuck was James Hetfield this whole time?
And then you go back and you find out he's in the first 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my goodness, like he blended in that well, and he did such like a great job acting. Like,
yeah,
you're like,
definitely.
Oh god.
But this scene or this film really kind of is. It's more of like a showcase in my opinion, showing these people breaking their own stereotypes, like Zac Efron kind of being like the idiot jock, Lily Collins being the weak, vulnerable woman. And that's not to say that she's not vulnerable in this, but she definitely like stands up for herself in this.
Yeah. Definitely by the end she like gets
absolutely.
it together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just thought it was really, really great overall. I was slightly disappointed with it overall, but not overall, but
At certain points.
At certain points, yeah, I felt like certain things were directed in a way that I felt like could have been better. I don't really have any examples in mind, honestly, but I remember just thinking like, I wish they had done that better. Or something that was a little bit awkward was. They kind of just abandoned Lily Collins for a solid 15-20 minutes. Yeah. Which is fine, I guess, but at the same time, you're telling things from her perspective, so why are we seeing like Ted Bundy's perspective at this point?
Yeah, it was a lot of jump back and forth between the two perspectives.
Yeah, and what happened was factual. Like what they did show in Ted Bundy's perspective was factual, but it also kind of detracted from the story they started to make in the beginning.
Yeah. I wish that I had known more about Ted Bundy before actually watching this. It was relieving to know or like watch this first in a way, because I got to see him more as like a human being and what he is capable of, like without seeing any other murders and stuff like that. So like at first you're sitting there, you're like, did he actually really do? Even though damn well he did. Yeah. So like that was really cool. But also on the same grounds, there is, and I'm here with you. I wish I had an example. There was like some things that like you wish they had done differently. Like maybe like him traveling to certain locations and stuff like that. Like I know at one point, at least they said in the episode where Ted Bundy tapes where he went to Oregon or something like that. Yeah. Like it would have been nice to see the evidence in the movie that he went to these places instead of just like him driving and then getting pulled over for not having a seatbelt or something like that.
One thing I was kind of relieved that they didn't show, one of Ted Bundy's final victims before he murdered the sorority girls in Florida State, was like I think she was like 12 years old. And I feel like that definitely would have just made the whole movie a completely different feel.
Yeah, they kind of like scraped right past that.
Yeah. In the documentary, the Ted Bundy tapes, they talk about it a lot more.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it is
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a major deal. But I was, in a way, kind of relieved that they didn't really discuss that in this until, just a line in the end.
Yeah, I feel like if they had, I mean, they definitely probably should have done more on it, but I feel like if they had, it'd be like more of an arc to it, like more of like a rising point, like they had to keep up with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that them deciding to stick to Lily Collins, for the most part, like we discussed, they do. I think that was equally a detriment to the story as it was interesting. It's really kind of hard to explain because this Ted Bundy is just a fascinating character in itself.
Yeah.
To tell his story, but without really focusing on him, was way different from what I expected.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see. I feel like it could have been a better movie overall if they did focus on him. But at the same time, I'm not upset that they didn't because, it's one of those things where it's kind of weird having a movie with such a likable character that is a serial killer. Like,
yeah, it's something that it's a choice that they definitely went with. That was a smart idea because we've seen the murder or the serial killer movies where they just go on slaughters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see a different point of view, but like I'm also still at the end of this movie wanting to still see that serial killer movie.
Yeah.
Maybe even with the same cast, that'd be awesome. But now I want to see that movie. See, I'm sure it's out there. That's the worst part. But I would like to see it from this cast too. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think we discussed their performances earlier. That I really was kind of more or less just on the fence about this movie, and still kind of am to in some sense of the word. But the end scene where Lily kind of confronts him in prison, and it's like the first time that Ted Bundy actually admits that he did anything, with writing hacksaw on the fog on the window.
Yeah.
That entire scene was just completely electric. The choices to shoot both of them straight on and have them look into the camera was insane. It made me feel very uncomfortable in a good way, but there
was also a scene for me that did the same, like made me feel the same exact way. It was in the big trial in Florida is when he's kind of giving his closing monologue about how he's being accused, like he's wrongly accused and stuff, and it's just a slow zoom on him all the way. One shot.
Yeah.
That was such a good scene.
When he's saying he rejects the sentencing. Yeah, and honestly, like the John Malkovich was great in that scene too, because like you could tell a lot of people criticized the judge in The Real Thing. You'll see that a little bit in the Ted Bundy tapes, for being so nice to Ted Bundy, but people don't understand that is the judge's job, to be impartial, to view evidence before him. You're not supposed to look at people as monsters. You're supposed to look at them as people who committed crimes.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people forget that just in general. I personally think that calling someone a monster is the easy way out, and it completely neglects the fact that people are capable of absolutely terrible things. Yeah. And the way that John Malkovich played that, I feel, was a perfect balance, because you could tell he was getting irritated, but he never really took it out on Ted Bundy. And that is, again, a lot of it is just what actually happened, because they did record the trial, and you see that a lot, especially in Ted Bundy tapes.
I was really expecting them mostly to like use whenever they like did like kind of like TV things. Like I was expecting them to use the actual footage and stuff like that, like they did in the Ted Bundy tapes. Since they have that, but then it was like Zac Efron on the TV, and I'm like, oh.
They did every now and then.
Yeah.
Like there's some of the interviews with women as to why they were there was from the actual footage. There's actually one newsreel that you see. It has the actual wanted poster for Ted Bundy or something along those lines. I can't remember, but I remember seeing a picture of actual Ted Bundy, and so they did do that to a little bit. But yeah, I think it was smart, but it also would have been cool to see at least like a mix of it.
I mean, maybe even if they didn't show Ted Bundy himself, like, but everything else was like the real world, like
like kind of as sad as it would be for this to happen, get rid of John Malkovich's performance and just throw like CGI Zac Efron into that world a bit.
Could. I mean, that would maybe take it out more, but yeah. The
one thing I'm like you where I'm trying not to write as many notes, but one note I did notice and didn't want to forget, in the scene where Lily Collins is visiting him and they're talking, through the phones and through the glass at visitation at the prison. After he's been convicted, he's about to admit everything. It's like a day before he's actually going to be sentenced to death or, killed.
Fried.
Fried. He says that he killed or cut off a woman's head with a hacksaw, and he writes hacksaw. And they did a seamless transition of the squeaking of the window as he's writing hacksaw into the sound of him using the hacksaw.
Yeah.
And that just chilled me to the bone
that whole scene was so good.
When I realized what was happening, it just absolutely chilled me.
And what was really cool about this is Zac Efron seemed pretty passionate about this because he was even a producer for it.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that. That's great.
I'm 90% sure because I could have sworn it said he was a producer.
Yep, Zac Efron, producer. That's pretty. He was an executive producer, but that's still something.
I even saw like an interview with him on Jimmy Kimmel where like I think maybe he didn't make the executive choice to like not show the murders or anything, but like that. But he's like, we've seen that. We know he's a terrible person, and I thought it would have been awesome just to like actually just play him and tell his story instead of everything else about it.
Yeah, I think that was a smart move overall. I do know some people, in fact, some of my friends are a little upset about that, but I think it was the better choice overall.
I'm not upset with it. I would have liked to see it, but I know there's the Ted Bundy tapes, and I know there's other things out there, so I can research it on my own.
Yeah.
You got a very disturbed, sick individual.
You'll be the first nationally televised trial in history.
You look nice, partner.
I'm disguised as an attorney today.
I get very scared, but, he's also really dreamy.
There are things you don't know that will shock you beyond your worst nightmares.
It's all a lie.
It is a capital murder case, and you are skating on thin ice.
This is about catching a monster.
I wish I could take it all back. What about me? I love you. Get out!
The killings were extremely wicked, shockingly evil, vile.
Did you do these things, Ted?
This is all gonna end.
It's only gonna end with the truth.
Let's move on to All the Boys I've Loved Before.
All right.
Laura Jean.
Laura Jean, wake up! Are you okay?
What happened?
You fainted.
Okay, let me start over. My name is Laura Jean. I was used to being invisible. No one was paying attention to what I was doing. I write a letter when I have a crush so intense that I don't know what else to do. There are 5 total. Peter with the beautiful eyes, Kenny from camp, Lucas from homecoming, John Ambrose from Model UN, and Josh, the boy next door.
Oh. Hey!
What are you doing? Nothing. Nobody else knows about them.
To all the boys I've loved before. A teenage girl's secret love letters are exposed and wreak havoc on her love life. That's the synopsis. Director is Susan Johnson. Writers Sofia Alvarez. Screenplay by Jenny Han, who was the the writer of the book, the original book. And it stars Lana Condor, Noah Centineo, Janelle Parrish, and it's got a bunch of other dudes and chicks in it. Oh, John Corbett, that's the one, the dude from My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yeah, that is him.
Anyway, so yeah, I decided we're gonna shake it up a bit and watch a romance.
After trying to get me to
after
pick
trying to
it.
get him to watch it for 3 podcast sessions.
And you know what? That was on you, because I will pick any other genre over romance pretty much 100% of the time.
Yeah, so I'll be the one in charge of romances, depending on how you really feel about this.
I mean, that's not to say I don't like them, but I'm not interested in them when I see advertisements for them. It takes a lot for me to actually like a romantic movie.
It's even in the beginning, not saying I didn't like this movie, even in the beginning of this movie, it still took me a minute to actually sit down and like get into it, because I just wasn't really interested in watching a romance.
Yeah.
And I know Kira's got the door open, so I'm sure she's going to hear me listening to this. Kira, close the door. Yes.
Just let her hear it.
Yeah, well.
Caitlin's sitting behind me right now, but she kind of knows how I feel about it already.
All right. How many times is this? What's your view count on this now? 6. Okay, she's watched it 6 times now.
That's a little
excessive. Yes, it is. All right, where do we begin?
I don't think I'm the target demographic for this movie.
I don't think either of us are, technically.
That's the entire... Because it's not bad, but the entire time I was just like, they didn't make this movie for me, which is completely fine. But the entire time I was like, Glenn, what are you doing?
I didn't do it. This is all on Kira, not me. Don't put this on me, Ricky Bobby.
Don't put that voodoo on me. One thing Caitlin actually told me that I found interesting is the author of the book, Jenny Han, was trying to... She had a lot of studios that were interested in adapting it, but every single one of them, with the exception of Netflix, wanted them to change Laura Jean's heritage to Caucasian. First of all, Jenny Han is an Asian woman. Why would you go to an Asian woman and be like, we like your book, but make her white?
No, I actually love the fact that she was an Asian woman.
Yeah. Or
teenage girl, whatever.
Yeah.
So bringing a Caucasian chick into this definitely would have made me be like, I don't want to watch this movie. Not saying I'm against Caucasians now.
No, it definitely... I mean,
it's fresh. It's fresh air. Like, we're finally reaching the point where, like, we're seeing movies that aren't just a bunch of white people in love with each other or killing each other or other things. It's nice to see. Not saying that there's murder in this movie, but
so you're gonna have to try to run this one as best you can, because I don't have much to say about it other than I'm not the target demographic.
All right, well, okay,
I'm gonna really try not to complain about it much, because I will acknowledge it's a good movie.
Yeah,
but it is not my kind of movie.
It's one of those. Yeah, I know, I get it. So I wish Kira wasn't listening to me, because this would have been a whole lot easier to talk about. I liked this movie. I did like it. And this is why I didn't want to talk about it, because I feel like I'm pressured to say that. But I did like it overall. The acting, it was good acting from everybody, especially from Noah Centineo. I would assume that's how you pronounce his name, right?
It sounds and looks right.
All right. Well, I liked him majorly overall. I felt real fucking bad for the one character's name, Josh. Josh. I felt bad for his character because he basically just gets dumped on the whole movie.
Yeah, I mean he comes on a little dickish at some points, but overall,
but like
I would agree
it's an
with you.
understandable dickish.
Yeah, like he's in a bad place in his life.
It's a real bad place.
Yeah.
Fuck. Let me collect myself here for a
I'll
second.
try to throw some stuff in. Lana Condor, who plays Laura Jean, the main character, I thought she was very charming. I felt like you said, the main characters, mainly just Noah and Lana.
Laura?
Yeah. Well, no, I was saying the actor's name. Peter and Laura Jean.
Yeah.
They were both, for the most part, interesting characters.
I liked their chemistry. That was the one thing I will say. Their chemistry together was pretty much phenomenal to me.
Yeah. But the entire thing played out like a Lifetime movie that to me was trying too hard to be like a Me and Earl and the Dying Girl style teen movie.
Yeah.
Which that was mainly in like how it was shot and edited and everything, not so much the subject matter. I felt like it was like a Lifetime movie that was trying to be artistic, for lack of a better word.
I could see that, yeah.
Again, that's not a bad thing. There are definitely things that I appreciated about it. Like in the end, when Laura Jean goes to tell Peter how he feels about her, and when he turns around, instead of cutting to a close-up of him, it stays on an extreme wide shot.
And then he just goes, oh, hey.
Yeah, and that was just hilarious to me. So like stuff like that I do appreciate. But goddamn teenagers, man, they're so fucking annoying.
It's fucking teenagers. And I knew going into this, I realized in the middle of watching, I was like, oh man, this is going to be a movie Mike's not going to like that much because just teenagers on its own. And this is like these kind of movies where like it's teenagers in school and stuff like that. It really takes me out of it when teachers don't really exist.
Yeah, where they're just kind of
chaperones or anything like the Edge of 17 movie, right? Had it literally one of the main characters was Woody Harrelson, right?
Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson, and he plays like a key component in the movie because he's a role model.
Yeah,
there isn't a single damn teacher or anything. Even on a ski trip, there's no chaperones. They don't exist. I saw one gym teacher that yelled at Laura for making out with Peter on the track.
And, kudos to him. He did his job.
Told her
to run 2 more laps.
Their job.
Yeah. Like then when she didn't run 2 laps and just ran away, he didn't do anything. So yeah, I completely agree with you. Like teen movies, there's a difference between teen movies that don't have adult supervision or anything. Because those do exist. I mean, kids definitely spend time by themselves. But if you're going to have a major amount of it happen in a high school, you got to have some teachers in there somewhere.
Adults really don't exist in this movie other than the father.
Even in the background. Like, they don't need to say shit, but be in the background. Have the kids be aware of their presence and not be acting like they're at a party the entire time. And it was just so frustrating. You could tell that adults were writing about their memories of being a teenager and not actually just being a teenager.
Yeah. So that's the major thing that takes me out of these kinds of movies, and it's hard to kind of jump back from. But at the end of the day, this is a teenage love story kind of movie, so I can't be too hurt by it. It's not like written for character arcs or anything like that.
No.
Well, to a point, but still. Other than that, I will say I did like this movie. The chemistry between Lana and Noah and their characters, they were great. I think the sisters, they were fun at times. I think the little sister,
the
Kitty,
little sister was annoying.
She was annoying. She had a moment or two where I was like, "Oh, she's really funny," and then she got really annoying. I'm like, "Oh,
yeah."
there was
she flopped back and forth between my favorite character in the movie to my least favorite character in the movie. She was so inconsistent. Like when they first get in the car with Peter,
Yeah.
The first time. She's hilarious in that scene, saying, like, call me Catherine. You don't get to call me Kitty. And then I forget exactly what he does.
She gave him a yogurt, and he's like, "This is delicious." And then he's like, "What happens if you can bring me one tomorrow?" And then she found out that he's going to be driving them every day until like this fake relationship stops. And she's like, "Okay, yeah, you can have one or whatever. You can call me Kitty." So
she does have her moments, but
yeah,
goddamn, she's annoying. And granted, there would be no movie without her.
There would be no movie, but at the end of the movie, this is kind of what bothered me. She said a line after Laura had found out Kitty sent out the letters. She's like, I knew Peter liked you, and I knew you'd never jump on it. And I was like, you didn't know that. He showed no interest in her at all.
Yeah.
And you weren't there to see it anyway.
You didn't get the notes because the notes were a product of you mailing her letters out. So, yeah.
So that bothered me, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say that I'm bagging on this movie. I really didn't enjoy it. I could see why the ladies like this movie so much, especially Kira. I'm not going to go into too much detail because that part's very personal. I can see how Kira and the character Laura have a lot in common.
Oh no, yeah. But
obviously, I'm not going to say much more than that.
You said enough for me to understand.
Yeah, so that's the only person I really need to have understand it. So like obviously these characters, some of them are all really relatable to either somebody like me or somebody like Kira. We've all been. Well, I won't say that. We've been down this road. We've been in. God, this is so fucking hard.
I didn't connect with anyone in this movie, if that makes you feel better.
That's why I said most, because I knew you wouldn't.
Like, and that's not to say that these people don't exist.
Yeah. Like I can say
the type of teenager I was not presented in this, and that's fine. Like, I don't need representation. I'm a white male. I got plenty of representation. But like this movie particularly, I couldn't really connect with anyone. And again, that's fine. This movie's not made for me. I'm not the target demographic. That's fine. There's not a single movie out there that is made for everyone. If you show me one and say this movie's made for everyone, you're a goddamn liar, because it's just not true. There's someone out there that movie does nothing for and is not made for that kind of person. So,
you know what this movie felt like? Again, I'm not trying to bag on it. I did like it. It's just really hard to point out things that I liked about the movie, like out loud at least.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that I feel like I'm pressured to say that I like it, because I'm saying right now I don't feel pressured. I did like the movie. Yeah. It felt like one of those movies where, like, you know, when somebody's like 20 years old and somebody else is 20 years old, they're like, you know, if we're not married by 40, I think we should get married. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, the ultimatum relationship kind of thing.
So like when Peter and Laura made the decision, like, hey, if in 3 months, like. You got to go on the ski trip. That's what it felt like. That was like the marriage thing.
Yeah.
Like, if we're still together in 3 months, you got to get this ski trip going with me.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
I will admit, overall, I didn't really care for the character of Peter. But there was a moment in it where it's just like, okay, this guy's not terrible. It's when they were writing out the contract and Laura Jean references 16 Candles. He hadn't seen it.
And then he brought
it's whatever.
And
then she says, no one can know this is fake. It was like, oh yeah, first rule of Fight Club. And she just looks at him blankly and was like, this guy gets it.
Yeah.
This guy gets it. He's seen Fight Club. That's all that matters. He's okay in my book.
And if I feel like it hurts to know, like, teenagers don't know, like, these things, like these pop things.
Yeah, it was very refreshing that they were watching Golden Girls.
Yeah,
I've
how
never seen
kids
Golden.
are.
Yeah, I've never seen Golden Girls, but it was very refreshing to watch them.
I was like, I know Betty White, my lord. Yeah. She's still old looking.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, overall it's fine. It's decent.
It's not for us, but I liked the movie. I'll say that. Like, I even on Letterboxd, I gave it a 3.5. So, like, put that into perspective. Like I did enjoy it.
Did I vote
Actually,
for it yet?
I don't. I think you did. I think you gave it a
2.5. That sounds about right.
2.5.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 3. I put that into perspective. I can't say anything nice about it, but I did like it that much.
Yeah. I've had those movies where I don't really have nice things to say, but I enjoyed it. I think more than it, like the story's fine. If anything really irritated me, it was the fact that they kept calling that video of them making out in the hot tub her sex tape. I'm like, if you keep calling it a sex tape, you're gonna make it worse for yourself. And like that never played out or anything, but like they just kept calling it a sex tape. I'm like, it's not. You're making it worse for yourself by calling it that. That's not what it is.
Yeah, like nothing actually happened, but she kept calling it a sex tape, and then like she had like her sister like write a complaint to Instagram saying that it was a sex tape and that like it was child pornography.
Which got it taken down, but at the same time, that rumor's going to grow around that someone flagged it for child pornography, and that's going to make the rumors worse about it. And so teenagers being teenagers and being stupid, and apparently not knowing what sex looks like.
This was a very, very teenage movie.
Yes, and that's what I hated about it. If they just had one teenager in the movie that hated other teenagers, I would have been okay with it.
It doesn't help that I'm doing this review immediately after seeing it. Yeah. And like movies like this, I like to bag on. So like I didn't give any of like the review thoughts to think about like positively. Jesus Christ. So like I'm still in bag mode right now. So if you gave me like a day or two, I could have more stuff going. Yeah. But I just watched the movie.
I think we already talked about what the best part of this, the chemistry between Laura Jean and Peter was impeccable. If you want me honestly to say anything else nice about it, the only thing nice about it I have to say is the way it was shot and edited. Yeah. But I also don't I feel like it doesn't really fit the style of movie it is, if that makes sense. Like
I am gonna bag on it a little bit more since you did bring up the technical. There was audio issues that I had, like either like people were just too quiet talking in like either a hot tub or something like that, or just like in a bathroom. Like it felt like it was ad-libbed, and it probably wasn't.
Yeah, the when after the video gets out and Laura Jean thinks it's her ex-best friend Jen.
Yeah.
That entire scene is ADR'd, which isn't out of the norm, but it wasn't.
It felt like it real hard.
I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but I also know that for a fact just by listening to it.
Yeah.
So like, no one told me that it is. I could just tell that it is.
Yeah, it felt like it real hard,
and it's not ADR'd well.
No. All right, I'm done bagging on it. I'm done. That's,
I got nothing.
3.5 out of 5. There you go.
Can you maybe just admit that some part of you doesn't want everything in your life to be a fantasy? You've got to get out there and show people who you really are.
Laura Jean, welcome to my party.
Still hide yourself, okay, honey?
Let's do this.
I'm with you. Hey, can I talk to you?
Me?
Yeah. Look, I appreciate it, but it's never gonna happen.
I'm sorry, what?
I think it's really cool that you think I have golden specks in my eyes. It's just, whoa.
Oh my God. The letters are out.
All right, let's move on to
the judgment. Will these be shelf boys? Are these shelf boys? What are shelf boys? Who
Still
are
gonna
we?
make up a concept of what shelf boys look like.
We will create a trophy one day for shelf boys. So, for extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile, I will go first for that. I think that it was a refreshing take on a serial killer story, especially it being, so recent, and people that he affected are still alive. It's not, whenever I know that people who are still affected are alive and they make a movie about it, I kind of tread lightly. But I do like the fact that they made it more about her than him, and then also like the media frenzy more than it was about him. So it was refreshing. It was slightly disappointing, which kind of makes it a little difficult for me to really pick if it's a shelf boy or not. I kind of want to hear what you say before I decide if that's all right.
Damn.
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm in the same boat as you. I kind of want to hear what you had to say, like fully. Like, I wanted to know whether you made it a shelf boy for me to make it a shelf boy. Everything you just said. It was such a refreshing take on just a serial killer movie alone, having like more or less humanizing him than just like pointing out that, oh, like he's done like this murder and showing the murder and everything like that. And obviously he's confessed to over 30. And obviously we didn't get to see 30. We barely even saw one.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to see that. It was really nice to see. It wasn't really nice because Ted Bundy's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
He deserved what he got.
Absolutely.
But maybe a little way too late.
Yeah. And that's one thing I did like was that was kind of Lily Collins' characters. That was her struggle, was that if like she could have done more earlier and saved people, but she didn't because she kept doubting herself. Which was 100% one of the greatest things I liked about this film, was that it really showed that, like, while she is not to blame for his actions, the guilt is there, and that is definitely something that is an interesting take, and you know, to examine that is really bold. And obviously they're not in the entire film. The only person that blames her is herself. It's not, the filmmakers aren't blaming her. Ted Bundy's not blaming her. Haley Joel Osment's not blaming her. No one is blaming her in this film except for herself. And that kind of self-examination aspect of the film was really enjoyable. You know, as enjoyable as a movie about a serial killer can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so I think I will say this is a shelf boy for that reason. It's not incredible, but I do think it is a interesting look at it. But also, if you say that this isn't a shelf boy, I won't be heartbroken. I'm not that. Like, this is barely a shelf boy.
The least thing that happens here is that it will be an honorary shelf boy. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the least that will happen is that it will be.
Yeah.
But overall, it was super refreshing how they did it through a different scope, not showing the murders, stuff like that. Like I said before, the acting was phenomenal. It did feel like it was missing something here that we did talk about.
I agree.
I think overall everything else held it up just fine. And then there's just something that we didn't talk about at the end of the film. They're doing their little end title things in there. It says that Carol, the chick that he was talking to when he wasn't talking to Lily Collins' character, she ended up having the child. So how many people, including myself and Kira, looked up that child? You can't find her. She's very difficult to find.
She changed her name kind of once Carol figured out that she was wrong the entire time.
Yeah.
They changed their name. They went into hiding. You know, they hid themselves. And
like after this movie was released, like I feel real bad because there's going to be a lot of people looking for her. Or there has been. As
delusional as Carol was, you know, she legitimately thought that he was innocent.
She was manipulated.
She was manipulated. She is another victim. She didn't die. She wasn't murdered. She probably did more harm for the case than good.
Yeah.
But she is a victim. She was manipulated. And so she's an interesting character. I personally don't blame her at all for anything. You know, I don't. In retrospect, yeah, she was delusional, but it's not her fault. She fell for a guy who is very manipulating and charming.
But anyway, on to the broader scope of it's a shelf boy.
It's a shelf boy. Okay. So, extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile makes onto the shelf. That brings us to all the boys I've loved before. Before we have you start on your thing, I just saw they are making a sequel to this.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
I'm not surprised, but also you don't need a sequel. And if anything, that brought my opinion of it down a little bit more.
It did.
Anyway, continue.
Oh, yeah, I see the headline there. Oh, son of a bitch.
I just thought you should know before your judgment.
Okay. that really just...
I'm sorry. I meant to bring it up earlier and just completely forgot about it.
It's not your fault. It's just not everything needs a sequel.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So on to All the Boys I've Loved Before. I think it was a well-made film. I think Lana Condor and Noah Centineo, I'm sorry, butchered that. Fuck it. Laura and Peter's characters. I thought they had great chemistry together. Overall, it's not a movie for me and Mike. I did really enjoy it though. But however, I'm not going to make it a shelf boy. I understood that it was relatable to a lot of people I know, especially one closer to me. Mm-hmm. Probably having her ear on the door right now. But anyway, it's not a shelf boy for me. I really did enjoy it though.
It's funny that you wouldn't make it a shelf boy because I'm kind of thinking the other way.
I think you have so much shit up your ass right now.
You're 100% correct. I do not believe it is worthy of being a shelf boy. So, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile makes it onto the shelf. To All the Boys I've Loved Before does not make it onto the shelf. That brings us to next week's films. My film for next week is available on Netflix. Netflix sponsor us. Please. It is written and directed by Rian Johnson of Last Jedi Infamy. And it is...
Or un-infamy, as a lot of people would.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I mean, that's not true.
It gets a lot of flack.
Yeah, and it stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Nora Zehetner, Lucas Haas, and Noah Fleiss. And it tells the story of a teenage loner who pushes his way into the underworld of a high school crime ring to investigate the disappearance of his ex-girlfriend. Like I said, it's available on Netflix, and I have seen this before, but I barely remember it. I just remember liking it, and I'm really excited to watch it again.
What is it?
Brick. Oh, did I not say the title? It's called Brick.
No, you didn't.
It's called Brick, available on Netflix. Yeah, so it's a film noir done in a high school, which is really interesting. I remember having really clever dialogue and editing, so I'm excited to rewatch it.
So it's obviously one I have not seen, and you said it was on
Netflix.
Netflix, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, I'm gonna. It's still a little bit of a romance if you think about it.
Oh no!
And I'm sorry. So mine is going to be both on Amazon Prime and Hulu. Mm-hmm. I don't, however, think it's on Netflix though. So mine is directed by Adrian Lin. It stars Michael Douglas, Glenn Close, and Ann Archer. It is Fatal Attraction.
Ooh.
A married man's one-night stand comes back to haunt him when that lover begins to stalk him and his family.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So next week's movies are Brick, available on Netflix, and Fatal Attraction, available on Amazon Prime and Hulu. As always, you can follow us on Instagram at Keystone_film_review. On Facebook, we are Keystone Film Review. On Letterboxd, I am Mike KFR.
And I am Glenn KFR.
And that will do it until next week. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.